Let's now talk a little bit about parameter types. As you probably know, every parameter in Touch Designer has its own internal type. Period, for example, inside is a float, harmonics an int, monochrome a toggle. And if you have operators like the desktop, you can see that we have, for example, the dat type or the string type. All types available in Touch Designer are supported by TDMorph, so it will just understand anything you throw at it. The only possible exception is the file type, and that is because it's hard to handle those with bindings in a reliable way. For all the rest, it will just work, so just throw anything at it, it will understand it. Let's try, for example, with a toggle and with the text, so the string type. Okay, for the toggle we have a toggle, and for the string we have a field where we can type things. Maybe you can already tell that these are different than the other ones, because it doesn't have the submenus. And that is because those submenus deal with interpolations, and these parameter types they cannot interpolate. So it doesn't make sense to interpolate a toggle, or you cannot really interpolate a string. But what you can do is, from this menu you can select when they will change. The possible options at the moment are on start and on end. So this is really the execution moment. Let's erase this preset so I can explain what that means. I will save a new preset in slot number 1, change a few things. Here derivative is awesome. And save that in slot number 2. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see the text. Alright. So if I trigger now preset number 1, these two are selected on start. So their execution moment will be as soon as I press this parameter, so on the start of the interpolation process. So they will change immediately. If I choose this to be on the end, they will, on the other hand, only trigger at the end of the interpolation process. So if I trigger now number 2, see that they will change when the interpolation is over. And you can tell because there's a little indication here that shows you the interpolation spot. Bam. Bam. And this is, of course, local for each one of them. So this one can be on start, this one can be on end. This allows you great flexibility and composition ideas, and I hope you see the appeal on this. One interesting case is the menu type. You can throw a menu here, and it will create a menu for you. And this can interpolate, and you can randomize it and so on at will. But one thing to keep in mind is that inside the menu, these are just integer numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you cannot really interpolate them smoothly. If you need to go from, let's say, a state that has Perlin 2D, that is in box number 3, to a state that has simplex 4D in state number 4, then you can definitely move from that to the previous state, but it will not do that smoothly, obviously, because these are just ints, so it will just go as in a ladder, tack, 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 tack. But it's nonetheless possible. Another thing that you can do, which is extremely powerful and opens a whole world of possibilities, is that you can add scripts to this environment. To add a script, you simply right-click on this empty space and press on Add Script. A new special field will be created for you, which accepts any Python string that you want. So let's type here print hello TDMorph. I'm gonna delete my presets. I'm gonna save this in number 1. And for number 2, I'm gonna type here by TDMorph. Like these non-interpolatable parameters, this one also has an execution moment. So to see how this works, let's invoke the text port and see what gets printed here. So the first slot says hello TDMorph, and it's set to be executed on the start. So if I press 1, we see printed hello TDMorph. If I press 2, we see printed by TDMorph. And if I choose this on end, this will get executed at the end, just like with the other non-interpolatable parameters. I would like to emphasize how powerful this can get, because here you can type any arbitrary string you want, any arbitrary expression, and it will just get executed. So you can create a whole component based on or full of scripts and just invoke them at any point in time. This string here, or this expression here, gets evaluated at the level of tdmorph, so where your tdmorph is. So that makes it possible, for example, for me to type this. I could simply refer to this text here and say up text1 dot par dot text, for example. So let's print whatever is written there. Okay, so if I do this and I save it on slot number 3, then at the end I see derivative because that is written here. And I am accessing directly from the level where it is because they are on the same level. So that is something to be aware of if you want to construct your screens and reference everything. So I hope you see the appeal on scripts. Finally, let me explain the remaining items in the UI. I have got rid of all the things we had and just left the interpolatable values because this will make it easier to explain. So if you go to the top left, you see there's a bunch of buttons here. Let's begin with the S button. The S stands for sliders, or elements in general. That means toggles, menus, scripts, etc. This is on by default when you create a new elements container. If you disable this, it will hide all the parameters that you have here. I call the parameters elements. When you hide it, that is much more computationally efficient because Touch Designer doesn't have to draw those UI all the time. So in fact, if you have something like this, let's say a preset there, and a preset here, and let's say this is part of your show, what I recommend you to do, what is the most advisable way, is to hide your sliders because they are going to take a lot of processing power if you are doing this while rendering other things, because they have to be drawn on every frame. So just hide them, and now this will be as efficient as possible using minimal resources. So this is the recommendable way to do it when you're performing. Let's proceed. The P stands for presets. So this hides the preset boxes, if you ever desire to do so. The C stands for controllers, and that hides the first row. So that is that. I imagine that this will be the most common scenario, so hiding everything except your presets when you're performing. Okay, we have 2 more buttons that we can play with. To demonstrate those, I'm going to hide the controllers so it is a little bit more clear, and I'm going to enable the B. The B stands for blending. If you invoke the blending, you have a new row that appears here, and this row has the following controls. This button enables or disables blending. Whenever you want to access the functionality, you need to turn this on. Preset A stands for what preset will be on the left side of this slider. So I'm going to choose preset 1. Preset B stands for the right side. I'm going to choose preset 2. And this slider allows you to interpolate, or let's say, move between these two states, preset A and preset B, so blend between them manually. So in this way, you can discover what lies in between those two presets if you ever are inclined to do such an exploration. And this, of course, you can change at any point in time, and I'm blending between preset 1 and preset 3. This is something that a lot of people wanted to do since version 1, so I decided to add it. However, there's one caveat with this, which is that whenever you launch a preset that requires interpolation, that will be favored because inside there's a lot of efficiency checks to make sure that that runs as fast as possible, and that will disable your blending. So what I mean is, if you press now 1, see what happens to the blending enable disable button. It will be now disabled because internally it has switched to be in the mode of interpolation. If you ever want to go to blending again, you have to re-enable this, and now you can again blend it. So that's the only thing you need to be aware of. Finally, we reached the E. The E button stands for expert mode. So let me hide the blending and let me invoke again the controls. And expert mode is called like that because it's something you will want to access whenever you are comfortable with the tools of tdmorph. So I'm going to talk about this in the next tutorial. See you there.